Hi everybody, our lesson today will be about the passive voice, part 2. We talked before, if you remember, about the passive voice, part 1, the present and past symbol with the passive voice. Today we will have more tenses with the passive voice. Let's remember what we have told or talked about before. The passive voice in the active sentence or حالة المبني للمعلوم, we use subject plus verb plus object, فاعل ثم مفعول به. But in the passive, when we change the active مبني للمعلوم into passive مبني للمجهول, we make some changes. What are the changes? First, we start with the object. The object of the active sentence becomes the subject of the passive sentence. المفعول يصبح فاعل. مفعول المبني للمعلوم يصبح فاعل في المبني للمجهول. And then وبعد ذلك we use verb to be in the suitable tense of according to the tense of the active. طبقا لي نستخدم زمن verb to be حسب الزمن الأصلي للجملة المبنية للمعلوم. ثم we use the past participle of the verb. نكتب التصريف الثالث للفعل الموجود في الجملة المبنية للمعلوم أو الأصلية. And at the end we change the subject into object. ثم نستخدم أو نحول الفاعل the subject into object إلى مفعول به في نهاية الجملة في حالة ذكره ونسبقه بالكلمة by. For example, my father planted this tree last year. We change it into passive. So the first one is active. We change it into passive as follows. This tree was planted by my father last year. Present continuous passive. Let's look at how the passive works in other tenses. Here is a sentence in the present continuous. They are building a house next door. Now let's change it into the passive voice. A house is being. We don't often use to be in the present continuous tense, so this may look unfamiliar. Is being built. To make the passive, use the third form of past participle, the third form or the past participle of the main verb, built. So a house is being built next door by them. By them doesn't tell us much. Who are they? So leave it out. Present continuous passive. The present continuous tense here, if it is active, we start as we have just said with the subject الفاعل, then we have am or is or are, and we have the verb with ing plus the object والمفعول به في النهاية. لتحويل هذه الجملة إلى مبني للمجهول into passive, we do the following. We start as we have just said before with the object comes at the beginning to be a subject of the passive, and then we use am or is or are plus being, and the verb that was in the active voice with ing we change it into the past participle. نحوله إلى التصريف الثالث. And the subject of the verb can be changed into object in the passive and preceded by. يمكن أن نحول الفاعل إلى مفعول. في تلك الحالة يسبق بكلمة by، ولكن هذه الخطوة في أحيان كثيرة تكون اختيارية. Let's have an example. He is writing a novel at the moment. Here the tense is present continuous. When we change it into passive, we start with the object المفعول به. A novel, we start with a novel, and then we have verb to be. Am or is or are, we will have to write is because a novel is singular. So a novel is being written, the past participle of the verb writing, تصريف الثالث للفعل write, written. So a novel is being written by him here is optional, you can write it or not, is being written at the moment. Present perfect passive. Here is a sentence in the present perfect: they have forgiven you. Now let's change it to the passive voice. You have been. To be in the present perfect tense is has been for singular or have been for plural. Forgiven, to make the passive, use the third form of the or the past participle of the main verb. You have been forgiven. Present perfect passive. The present perfect tense in the active voice, subject plus has or have plus the third form of the verb plus the object. As we said before, we change the object into subject, and we change the subject into object, and we use has or have been plus the past participle of the verb. He has just finished a novel. When we change it into passive, a novel has just been or been finished by him. By him is optional, you can write it or not. Modal verbs in passive voice. Modal verbs can be used in either the present or past forms. Active, subject, modal verb, not, plus verb, plus object. Passive, as we said before, we start or we change the object into subject and the subject into object, and we precede it by the word by, and here we use be after the modal verb, whether it's affirmative, whether it's positive or negative. We use verb to be after the modal verb and then the past participle of the verb. For example, we can't solve this problem. So when we start with the object, this problem can't, the modal verb can't be, and the past participle of the word solve, of the verb solve, is solve it. So the problem can't be solved. So modal verbs is used with the passive by using be after them. Modal verbs like will, can, could, may, might, must. Change the following sentences into passive. Someone has taken the keys of the car. Here we will look at the object. Here the keys is the object. The word the keys is the object. So we start with the word the keys. And then look at the tense. Has taken, it's present perfect. So the keys of the car. Here we write has or have, we write have because the keys here is plural. So the keys of the car have been, and the past participle of the verb taken, this, it's the same. So the keys of the car have been taken. Number 2, she is preparing some chemicals in the lab. Here the tense is present continuous, and of course we will look for the object to start with. The object here is some chemicals. So some chemicals is the object. We will start with some chemicals, and then we use is or are. Chemicals here is plural, so we use are, and we say being, verb to be in the continuous tense, in the continuous form being, and the past participle of the verb preparing is prepared. It's a regular verb, so it becomes some chemicals are being prepared in the lab. Number 3, you must respect traffic rules. Here the word must is a modal verb, so here we will look for the object. The object here is traffic rules. Traffic rules here is here the object. We start with the object, traffic rules must in the modal verb and followed by be. So traffic rules must be, and the third form of the word respect, respected. The traffic rules must be respected. Thanks for listening. Until we meet again, I wish you the best of luck and goodbye.